Okay, guys, so let's wrap up Window by talking about the big stuff. You've made it through. I mean, a lot of these videos are about like little things, little details I want you to pay attention to. But now I think we've gotten to the sort of end, and we need to think about larger issues, which is in 201, this is what's called theme, or the sort of main idea. I don't usually love that language, but it's what it's about. So we got to talk about kind of, and I call it in my class the ideas. There's a lot of the stuff earlier we were looking at as character and metaphor and that kind of thing. Although, again, I also don't use that language for film class. But if you've taken 201, that's what we've been doing. So now let's talk about theme, the big ideas of the piece. Movies are a form of thinking. And so Hitchcock, when he makes Rear Window, he's not, people are like, oh, he's just making an entertaining movie to entertain people. Well, to escape from reality or whatever. I don't know if that's quite right. He's making a movie that makes a lot of money, for sure, and people enjoy it. That's great. But this movie is about ideas. He has real ideas about what's going on in the world. So what is this movie about? And I'm going to say something crazy, and you're going to go with me on it. This is a movie about movies. This is Hitchcock thinking about the power of making movies. And that seems like a crazy thing for this movie to be about, because no one in the movie is making a movie, and they don't talk about movies. Well, they talk about His Girl Friday for 2 seconds, but that doesn't count. So why do I say this? Let's talk about the difference between seeing a movie and seeing a play. Seeing a movie and seeing a play are very similar. You go to a place, you sit in a seat, you stare up at a story for 2 hours, and a bunch of people up there in front of you pretend to be other people, like fictional characters, and they sort of perform a story for you. And then it's a form of entertainment that allows you to escape the world or whatever for a little bit, and then you go back to your day-to-day life. So theater and movies are extremely similar, but there's a key difference between them. And the key difference is, this is one of the things Hitchcock's really interested in, which is that when you watch a play, you can see the actors, and they can see you too. This is especially dramatic with Shakespeare, which is often performed outdoors, like as in Shakespeare in the Park, where you can see the actors and they can definitely see you. But in Shakespeare's day, they didn't have lights, like spotlights and stuff for the theater. So when you go see a play in Shakespeare's day, and I went to a recreation of a Shakespeare play like it was way back then, even the indoor theaters, all the lights are on, with candles, but they're on. The effect is that you can see the audience, you can see the actors, and they can see you. In modern day plays, it's harder for the actors to see you because the lights are in their eyes, and so it's hard for them to sort of see your faces. But for most of human history, and certainly in a lot of small stage plays and outdoor stage plays today, when you see what's going on stage, you see the actors doing things, and they can see you back. In a movie, that's not the case. When you see the people in a movie doing things, they have no idea that you're there. They can't see you. Because it was filmed a long time ago and they're not even around anymore. But the point is that in a play, you see and you are seen. And in a movie, you see, but you see them, but they don't see you. Why is that important for Rear Window? I bet you can figure it out while I drink this coffee. Because Jeffries, in the movie, in Rear Window, Jeffries sees people without himself being seen. Now, when you do this in real life, it's called voyeurism. A voyeur is a person who wants to see but does not want to be seen. Normally, voyeurism often has to do with eavesdropping and getting secrets. Actually, so at the beginning of the movie, Stella mentions that she was sort of paying attention to the CEO of General Motors, and she saw that he was so tense and stressed, and she knew that company was in trouble. And so she's kind of paying attention. She's learning things that he doesn't realize she's paying attention to him, and she's figuring out what's going to happen to the stock prices, at General Electric or whatever, because of how tense he is. She's paying attention to him, but he doesn't know that she's doing that, and that she's picking up on these little clues. So she sees without being seen. He doesn't know that she's sort of finding out about the future of his company, but she is. And when you think about voyeurs, you might think about eavesdropping as a big one too. If you listen in, on if your friends are talking about you and you're in the other room and you kind of listen in, that's voyeurism. Gossip and that kind of thing can often be voyeurism. If you heard something you weren't supposed to hear, or you saw something you weren't supposed to see. Actually, there's a quick example of that. At the beginning of the movie, Jeffries is on the phone with his editor boss at the paper. We never see him, but we hear him on the phone at the very beginning of the movie. And he says something like, you're such an editor. How did you get this job? And he says, well, I saw my boss with his secretary, saw something he shouldn't have seen, because presumably his boss and the secretary were like having sex, and he caught them, and then he got a promotion rather than to shut him up. It's a joke at the beginning of the movie about seeing things you're not supposed to. Okay, good. What Jeffries is doing in the movie is he is looking at people, but they don't know he's looking at them. And so one way to think about this movie is a lot of it is like a metaphor. Him looking at people in their little windows in their lives is a lot like you looking at the movie Rear Window and seeing their lives. You're right, you're seeing the life of L.B. Jeffries, and he's seeing the life of Thorwald. You're seeing it on a rectangular screen. He's seeing it in a rectangular box. He is a voyeur. He is looking at things. He wants to look, but he doesn't want to be seen. And that links him with the movie audience. That makes him similar to the movie audience. It's one of the reasons we like him. It's one of the reasons why this movie is so powerful. And again, this is why I always tell you, don't just talk about what's happening in the characters' lives. Think about the audience watching it and the people that are making it. Why did the people making it make the decisions they do, and what are people watching it getting out of it? Well, one thing people watching this movie are getting out of it is that they feel connected to Jeffries because he's just like them. Every single person who watches this movie is watching someone's life in a little rectangle, and they don't know they're being watched. What's Jeffrey doing? He's watching somebody in a little box, and they don't know they're being watched. So the audience and this character are one in the same. Now, Hitchcock, by the way, when he's making the movie, is using cameras to film the movie. Obviously, that seems like a stupid thing to say, except don't forget, Jeffries is also looking at the world through a camera lens. Now, he's not recording it, but the idea, you see that he's similar to the director in some way. He is watching people through a camera, just like the director is watching people through a camera, and that camera creates the images that we're seeing. So this is a movie about voyeurism. And about seeing things you're not supposed to see. And it's an analysis of why movies work. And actually, I'll go farther than that. Honestly, people's the little glimpse of people's life that you get through the little square of their window with Miss Lonely Hearts and Miss Torso and the frustrated artist at the piano and the couple sleeping on the fire escape and the newlywed couple. Do you see how all those choices that he has? It's almost like an Instagram feed. Right? Like you get a little box, and you get a picture of a person's life in the box, and then you keep scrolling, and you get a picture. And it's a little different because the people on Instagram are showing you something. And in Rear Window, he's looking at something, but they don't know they're being watched. But the idea is similar, the enjoyment of having a window into other people's lives. Okay, cool. But voyeurism, there's another aspect of voyeurism. I mentioned as an example of voyeurism, gossip and overhearing things that you're not supposed to be hearing, and finding out secrets that you're not supposed to be finding out. And that is voyeurism. When you look into someone's life and you find out. If you ever go to somebody's house and you go use the bathroom and then you open the medicine cabinet because you want to know if they have any medicine in there, and you're gonna find out about them, but they're not gonna know that you're doing that. That's like voyeurism, snooping. But there's a bigger thing here, which is that voyeurism, everything I gave you is a good example of voyeurism, but there's more to voyeurism than that. Voyeurism is usually sexual in nature. In an age before pornography was available at the touch of a button on a phone that everyone carries in their pockets, if you just say the word voyeur to somebody, they're going to assume the most common kind of voyeur, the kind of voyeur that's going to spring to mind, the sort of default voyeur, is someone who sees people having sex. It's sexual activity. Stella calls it a peeping Tom, which is she mentions that a couple times. She says it's a crime because at the beginning when he's looking out the window, he's spying on people, and she says, you know what the penalties are for being a peeping Tom? Because he's spying into other people's houses. But the reason why it's a crime to be a peeping Tom is because the peeping Tom is doing so because he wants to watch people have sex as like a masturbatory fantasy for him or something, because it's sort of sexually thrilling to watch people have sex. But when pornography, people would look in other people's windows to see if you could see them having sex. And so one of the things that's happening in this movie, which doesn't seem like it, this is the next crazy thing I'm going to say. This is a movie about sex. As most of the movies we look at this semester, I joke that this class is Psychosexual Cinema Club, or Psychosexual Nightmare Cinema Club. We'll talk about that in the next video.